I wanted to do a quick overview of the in-floor heat I installed in my workshop slash small garage. It's 20 by 24, 20 wide, 24 deep. And when I was getting ready to pour the slab, the guy suggested I just put the tubing in just in case I wanted to use it. He only charged me $150 to staple it down. Did have some additional cost in my insulation under the slab. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, here we go. Here's a quick review. So coming out of the floor, you can see I've got two loops. I've got 4 pipes. The 2 in the back are the runs that go down into the floor, and the 2 in the front are the runs that come up out of the floor. So the back 2 are the hot side, the front 2 are the cold side. The cold side comes up through this PEX tubing up into the top side of this manifold. Goes through isolation valve with a thermal well on it and a thermometer into a little strainer. A lot of people say I don't need a strainer since it's a closed loop system, but it wasn't that expensive, I think, and so I just decided to put it in. Comes down off the strainer into my pump. It's a Grundfos 3-speed pump, and I'll give you details on that later. I bought the isolation valves for top and bottom. You can also see that I put these standoff mounts in there to stabilize it, and they made a big difference in keeping it nice and steady. And then it comes out of there, it runs into the bottom of my water heater. Talk about the water heater in a little bit. I did put a drain valve on that water heater in case I ever need to. And I've got a blow off tube out of there too. I put the low pressure 30 pound per square inch relief valve. I'm only running about 16 to 18 pounds on the system. And then out of my top of the water heater, I've got another isolation valve. And I come into my PEX. Everything here is 3/4 except for what's going down into the floor. And I come into I've got a pressure gauge up here. As you can see, it's running about 16, 17 pounds. And it goes through an air separator down into the hot side of the manifold and then down into the floor down there. This is one of these cheap Chinese manifolds. I think I paid $150 for it. With everything you see there, the valves, the thermal wells, the controls and everything. But it's working really well. We've had no leaks out of it. Talk about that in a little bit too, how I set it up. But it works really well. I'm really happy with it. On the control side of things, I have little STC controller does heating and cooling. I'm only using the heating side, obviously. I set my floor temp to 13 degrees centigrade, which is about 55. And I have a little probe sitting on the floor underneath that box, just to keep it tight to the floor. I'll come up with a better solution in a little bit. But that probe senses the temperature as it changes. I've got like a 0.3 degree threshold, so it won't kick on to heating mode again until it gets down to 12.7 degrees. But when it does kick on, a little light will shine over here in the corner, tell me that it's heating. For a heat source, I bought a 20-gallon water heater off Facebook Marketplace. Some guy had it in his camper, and he thought the one in his camper had gone bad, but it was just something else, so he bought this to replace it. In the meantime, he figured out what was wrong with his other water heater. He fixed that and put this on the marketplace for $200. I got a 1-year-old 20-gallon electric water heater that's only 1,700 watts. So I can run that on a 20-amp circuit. And I've got that wired directly into a switch there. And then over into my panel. That's a dedicated 20-amp circuit just for that water heater. I put a little switch protector on there so it can't get accidentally shut off. But at the end of the heating season, I'll just click that switch off. I'll also throw the breaker in the panel, but it just gives me a double. The controller itself is plugged into just a regular, I got a 15 amp circuit sitting over here just for the hydronic heating system, a separate circuit for the switch. And the pump is plugged into this controller down here. The pump only draws, I think, 1/10 of an amp. It's really low power draw. But I wanted to have some power here for some other things. It's GFCI protected as itself. If you look at my air separator, it's like the Spirovent Junior. I don't know if it's the exact brand or not, but it does the same thing. It's got a little proprietary whirligig inside there that's supposed to separate all the micro bubbles, and it seemed to be working. I have no air moving in my system at all, at least nothing I can hear. And I'm getting pretty decent flow out of everything. I have a little runoff tube out of it that I installed when I first charged up the system with my glycol solution. And that just runs down into a bucket down here. So when I first filled up the system about a week and a half ago and ran it for a while, this is all I got out of it. And part of that came out while I was actually filling it too. I filled it to, like I said, about 16 pounds of pressure. It varies between 16 and 18, depending on how it heats up. It's just a little Califacto expansion tank. I think it's a 2.5 gallon, 2.1 gallon, and it's pre-charged at 12 PSI. But I didn't do anything to that. And so I've probably got a little bit of fluid in the tank because my system pressure is about 18. So I could pump air in there and push some of that out a little bit, but it might actually push up my system temperature. So I'm just going to leave it alone. It seems to be working. Give me comments if you think I'm making a mistake by doing that. I used this Cryotech 100 for antifreeze in a loop. I mixed it 50-50, 50% Cryotech and 50% distilled water. It says it should be protecting me down to, according to this thing, it says I should be protected to, I don't know, like 27 degrees or something. But I diluted it quite a bit. Well, that's what it says, a dilution. It's saying that at 50%, I'm only freeze protection down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I had a bucket of my solution sitting outside at 7 below and it hasn't frozen yet, so I think I'm okay. All in all, I like the system. It seems to hold the temperature pretty well in here. My building stays at about 52 to 55 degrees. And I got a little electric heater on the ceiling to kind of boost it up if I want it a little bit warmer while I'm working in here. But I'm really happy with it. Post any comments you want and I'll try to get back to you. And I will put links to the products that I purchased in the description and some of the cost information. But all in all, I'm into this thing for less than $1,000, not including the insulation on the floor.